just gonna imagine it's in this region here, which is pretty commonplace to fracture it. So we have these are medium length, just wooden stakes for an improvisational splint. And then an optional way to brace the ankle to immobilize the leg even more, or immobilize the fracture even more. So I'm going to use these to brace above and below the primary joint nearest the movement, as well as the ankle, to limit the mobility here. And I use the splint like that. So I'm going to start by tying above the knee here. And then you don't want to do it too tight, you don't want to limit circulation. And in theory, you would go around multiple times if you had a long enough bandage or wrap. And then we're going to go below the knee. Under here. So now his knee joint is limited, so he can't damage the injury as much. And then we're going to do above the injured site on his lower leg. While keeping the ankle locked in. And then below the injured site. And then we'll really lock the ankle in here. Alright. And that should limit movement and stop the fractured injury from causing any more damage. Alright. Alright. One last thing is to make sure the bandages connecting the splint to the wound are double knotted so they don't slip off while the patient's being transported. All right. Okay. All right, so here we have a patient with a wrist injury. And so before I splint him, I'm gonna give him something to keep in his hand, to keep his wrist in more of a neutral position. Bend slightly upwards, as you can see here in this cast, to keep it in a neutral position. And then I'm gonna use this improvisational splint. You can use any magazine, preferably a little bit of a thicker one. And I'm gonna have him hold that against his wrist, above and below his wrist. And I'm gonna start by tying below the injured wrist. And you always wanna tie at the bottom of the splint so it doesn't add any pressure or discomfort to the injury. You're gonna double knot it like I did with the leg injury there. And then we're gonna tie above the wrist, at the hand. Preferably you want to wrap from behind, around it, and then back around. But with a shorter wrap, you can also just do above and below one time around. Double wrap it, and now the wrist is immobile there. And now we're going to use a sling, just a regular scarf as an improvisational sling around the injury and then around the neck, just to keep him from swinging around, damaging it even more. And then as another option, to keep the injured wrist close to his body, We can put this around, if you have them lean forward, under their arm. And then tie that to their body. Now the wrist, as you can see, is completely immobile here, above and below the joint, and it's close to their body and they can't swing it around to damage it any further.